I'm going to try to fix another pen if I can find one that needs to have a sack in it. I put the pens that need to have sacks in them in a drawer, and you think I can find them. This needs a sack. It has a sack. It doesn't need a sack. What it does need, though, is this is very loose. And when you have a section that sort of swims in the barrel where it jiggles, how do you fix that? Well, first of all, it could be jiggling for a number of reasons. One is it's the wrong section. Another one is there's a crack in the threads here somewhere. And there's really, yes, you can maybe glue that. Maybe you can do other things for it. You can maybe, there's one guy that I knew in Minneapolis, he would lathe some sort of metal sleeve that would go in there, and he'd all glue it together and make it all solid. And then he probably would have to shave down the section a bit so it would fit. All of that is way too much trouble for this pen. This is a late model Waterman, and most of 99% of the people watching me would say, why are you even wasting your time fixing this pen? It was among the last gasps that Waterman exhaled before they died completely. They were still making fountain pens. I don't know when this was made, late 50s, I would think. Their plastics were crappy. That's why this is warped. The plating was crappy. That's why its plating wears on it. It's pitted. It's just, nothing is good about this pen, except I'm gonna dip it in ink here, if I remember this pen correctly. Okay, well, look at this. Ta-da! Ta-da! Boy, this is awful to write with. It just, you press down and it jiggles. So how do you fix that? What the easiest way to fix that? This nib is nice. It's a sort of tight, flexible nib of some sort. Is this even a Waterman nib? Let me just see what this is. Pardon me. Waterman's 14CT. 14 karat, made in, and then you don't see where the in is. Made in Canada? No, England, I bet. I'm just going to leave it where it is. Yes, I know I could take it all apart and clean it, but it works just fine, except for the jiggly bit. So one thing to make it work, someone just mentioned Osmoroids are so frustrating. He probably thought this was a Osmoroid. Is what you do is you take a little piece of tape or a little piece of paper, and you just add that extra bit of thickness. I'll show you how it would work. Where's the piece? Do I have a piece of tape anywhere? I'll use a piece of paper. Do I have a piece of paper anywhere? I do, right here. I'll take a little tiny piece of this. So what you do, is this going to be too thick? It's thicker than I expected it to be, but it's good enough. You take a little piece like this. That's the sound you have to use when you're doing this. You set it against the section. and then you put it into the, I sort of use only one eye right now. One of my eyes is screwed up, so my depth perception doesn't always work. So just that extra thickness of paper has made this tight. So now I can write with it, and it doesn't have that nasty jiggly bit. Yes, Juicy Louise is saying that Osmeroids plastic are annoying and warpable and tiresome and stuff, and they are a little bit, but I don't think they were made to last as long as they have. I think they were sort of a school pen, or you'd buy them as a artist pen, and they would work fine for the 4 or 5 months that you thought you were interested in calligraphy, and then they would break, or they'd warp. They don't really break, they just warp. And lots of plastics in the later years warped. Anyway, this pen, so Juicy Louise, we've talked before, I remember your name. Is your name Louise? Louis, or is it Louis? Louis. This nib is great. This pen is great. This pen will make anyone happy who wants a pen to do drawings or do calligraphy with, or write a letter, write a check. Louise, have you ever been live with me? You haven't been live with me. I think I would have remembered. Would you like to go live with me now? I don't bite. Louise, Louise. Oh, I remember. I sang you "Every Little Breeze Seems to Whisper Louise." I think I did. So anyway, this pen now works. It's functional. And before I sell this pen to someone, I will say, oh, it has a little piece of paper holding it tight. If I know a pen has a flaw, I will point it out. If a pen that I'm selling has a flaw that I don't know about, I certainly can't point it out. There are sometimes, there's one guy that I used to sell pens in New York, and he'd buy pens from me, and he'd pick up the pen and he'd immediately ask what's wrong with it, assuming that there was something wrong with every pen I sold. He might have said that to anyone. He was on a mission. He was trying to buy pens, and he didn't have time to look. But there are people that buy a pen from me, and they've got loupes and magnifying glasses and flashlights, and they're looking at the pen completely perfectly, with great detail, and then they ask me what's wrong with it. And I said, you just looked at the pen. Did you see anything wrong? I mean, they only looked at the outside of the pen, obviously. They didn't look at the inside, but this has a hairline crack in it. Well, you were the one that just spent 10 minutes looking at it through your electron microscope loupe. Don't blame me. So, Louise, did we play the dinner party game with you? We don't have to do it now, but it's a fun little way to sort of get to know someone. This pen is just great. So, Louise, are you a calligrapher or drawer or a journaler or what? No, you don't know the dinner party game. Well, I was given a guest book from a pen collector who knew that I liked ledger books and guest books, and he also knew that I loved seeing how people wrote their name, what their handwriting was like. None of these people are calligraphers, but they certainly have very interesting handwriting. So he gave me this book, and there's a lot of empty pages on it. So what I've done is I've asked people, my visitors here, to come up with a total of 6 or 8 people that they would love to have at a dinner party. And one of those 8 or 6 includes the person who I'm talking to. And so they have to come up with 5 names or 7 names of other people that they would like to put together at a table and have a nice dinner. Mainly, it's about the conversation. It's not about the food you're eating. It's about what sort of people would you have sitting together where you could have them converse. And you can have any person living or dead, and they all can speak the same language. They all will have the ability to converse with one another without having to know French or German or Swahili or ancient Egyptian or whatever. So this idea came from a show that Steve Allen produced, I think for PBS, for the public television. And I think he called it Great Minds, but I'm not sure. And he would invite 3 or 4 people to sit at a round table with him, and they would talk to each other. And there was, in one instance, one of the persons was Cleopatra, and another person was a American, I think, though it could have been British, feminist, an early feminist who marched to get the vote. And Cleopatra, the people that were playing the roles, a script is written for them to read and voice, and it was written as if Cleopatra, these were her thoughts, her ideas about feminism, even though she was a queen of Egypt. She didn't believe in feminism. So, and she sounded convincing. So it's a fun little game. It was a fun show to watch, and it's a fun game to play with people. It just, some people invite people that they admire, and they all might be scientists or musicians or whatever. Other people are a little bit more diverse. There have been a few, probably the most popular guest at a dinner party in my recorded lists is Einstein. Another popular one is Leonardo da Vinci. Another popular one is Lincoln. We've had a couple of Hitlers on the guest list. Some of them sound like they'd be really, really fun parties to be a waiter at. One guy here said he wanted to invite Mrs. Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, Mrs. Trump, the present Mrs. Trump, and Stormy Daniels, and all of the first ladies and the women that their husbands were sleeping with. Where Stormy Daniels would say about Trump, yeah, I called him tiny. Yeah. And then Melania would say, yeah, you got that right. She'd say. So anyway, it's a fun game. You don't have to play now. if you don't want to. This pen almost looks like, this nib almost looks like a gold plate. But it does say 14 karat CTS. But it just has, it has a sort of flimsiness to it. So even the Waterman nib department was suffering when this pen was made. So I'll put this in the done pile. What else do we have that I can put a sack in? This little pen. This is a little Sheaffer golf pen. This was a pen that was sold to golfers. They could, this little tiny pen, all it had to do was write a hopefully single digit number between 1 and 9. If they had to, if it took them 10 swings to get the ball into the little hole, they probably wouldn't ever want to play the game a second time. And but this is a cute little thing. And if Melania's husband had one of these on the golf course, his hands would look much, much bigger. We were talking about hands, right? When they said tiny. No, we were talking about something else entirely. Okay, this is now out. It is, I can blow air through the ink channel so it doesn't have to be overly cleaned. Okay, somewhere here I have a dental tool. Here it is. These things are amazing. Everyone should have one of these that is planning to repair pens, because its little sharp edge is able to dig in and pull out the shellac, the old shellac and the old hardened rubber sack. Oh dear. The Unabomber. Could he bring one of his bombs and give it to Elon? Is that something you'd allow? Elon, I take this home with you when you go back to wherever you live. I'll write down the names in a second. Oh, see, now this, we've come up with an issue here. This is the pressure bar that's inside of this thing, and the pressure bar is broken, and so I need to put a pressure bar on this thing, which is a job that I don't want to do on camera right now. So that'll go back. I do have a drawer that's full of things that need pressure bars. Just leave that there. So not allowed. You're not going to allow that. So I'm going to ask you, Louise, if you can. I'm going to write the names in this book right now. Under your, here you are. You're going to be right here. Paulo. Who did Paulo? Paulo, Edgar Allan Poe, Orson Welles, Raoul Branston, who's a poet, writer, George Tasker, Banksy, Fernando S. Presser, poet, and Paula Rego, a painter. So this is the arts represented by this person. So we're going to do, I'm going to get a nib that I know is friendly with this paper. This paper is very brittle, so a sharp nib tends to tear it. So here's juicy Louise. So number 1 is Louise. Number 2 is the Unabomber. Unabomber. And what was his real name? Ted Kaczynski? Is that his name? I think that's his name. Kaczynski, I think. This is his real name. 3. Elon Musk. Well, they're going to have a nice conversation if you set them next to each other. The nice thing about this is the group is small enough that it's not like 20 people at a table where you only hear the people at your end. Everyone can talk to each other. Hattie McDaniel, so the actress, right? Now, was she allowed to get on stage and accept her Academy Award? I forget whether she was or not, because she was black in a segregated world. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So you have one more to make 6, or you have, Guy Gibson and his dog. I don't know who Guy Gibson is. Is his dog a service dog? Is Guy Gibson blind or otherwise needing a service dog? I like your grouping. Louise, what do you do when you're not watching me here? What is your profession? Wing Commander Guy Gibson. So I'm going to look him up because I don't know. Is he a British war hero? Wing Commander Guy Penrose Gibson. Distinguished Second World War VC. We'll put the VC here. Victoria Cross, I guess. Dam Busters. Oh, cool. I know that story. And he was killed at age 26. When I remember in the movie they made about this that the dog was somehow important, though I forget why. The dog would meet him at the gate. Was that how that worked? Or something. Anyway, in the movie, you're retired. What did you do? Were you a scientist or trying to figure out were you a social activist? And you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I'm just curious. Guy Gibson and his dog. That's really cool. It's an interesting group. I'm going to write Guy Gibson's dog. Dog. Let's see what Wikipedia. Oh my God, his dog was named Nigger. Is that is that nurse? Short career as a nurse. Nigger, the dog. That's I'm going to write his name. There's in Massachusetts here, there's a town called Methuen, and it has a pet cemetery at it. And it's owned by the Massachusetts MSPCA, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So the MSPCA owns this cemetery, and they have funerals for pets there, mainly dogs and cats. I think they're all probably dogs and cats. So you drive by there and you see a tent put up and chairs all in rows for the mourners to watch little Fifi being buried. And there's tombstones, and there are lots. Well, I don't want to say lots. There might be a half dozen in the cemetery of maybe 300 graves, a half dozen animals with the name Nigger. And I don't think that would be common in this day and age. But the conversation between Hattie and Dr. Martin Luther King and Guy about why he chose that name for the dog might be interesting to hear, to eavesdrop over. Elon Musk, growing up in an apartheid country, in the conversation with Hattie and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. might be interesting to overhear what their conversation is going to be about. So, yes, the Dam Busters. What a fun, well, not a fun movie, but it's just such a fun little secret weapon they came up with to blow up those dams. Guy Gibson. So did he die in an aircraft accident? I imagine he may have. Oh, Dam Buster's dog headstone racist name removed. So evidently was a here we go. Here's the dog. The dog was killed by a car in 1943. Now, how did Guy Gibson die? He died. Did he also die in action? Guy Gibson. Let's find this out. It's very strange. You know, he was killed in action at the age of 26. Here's Guy. Handsome guy. It's very interesting how names were given and how offensive they are or were. I know growing up myself, the word queer or fag was used to describe people of my particular subgroup of humans. And then the word gay came up as the term, and a number of gay men and women are going back to using the word queer, taking that back and using it in a positive way. I don't know. It's hard to know how long a offensive name is going to be offensive, or if it's always going to be offensive. Yes, fag is a perfectly legitimate word. So is gay. So is queer. They all have meanings, and they are all legitimate, even the secondary terms. I didn't mean to suggest gay or fag or queer is not a legitimate use of the word. Words have meanings, I think, and so anyway, yes, it would be interesting to see what they would say to Guy Gibson. Is that the only reason why you invited him? Or was there a different, other than the fact that you grew up next to the airbase? He's a local hero for you. But again, this is a very interesting group of people. Would you like to include 2 more people? You can have 8 if you'd like. I've got room on the page for 2 more. This pen isn't out of ink. It's not filled. I'm just dipping it. So one dip wrote all of that. So let me know if you want to add a few more names. 6 is enough. So in a round table, I'm going to ask you this. So I'm going to make this a little tiny bit more sophisticated for you, if you want to play that. What is the seating arrangement going to be? Back in the olden days, it was always boy, girl, and for some reason, hostesses were always looking for the extra male to fill out a table. And one of my neighbors who died just a week ago, a friend of mine who I've known for nearly 40 years, he was a landscape architect who had very fancy clients, old world money, but he also he went to a dinner party at Winston Churchill's granddaughter's estate, manor, whatever it is, wherever she lives in England. And I'll tell you a story about her in a second. But so who would you who would you sit next to each other? So here's you. You're at one end. Who will be to your right and to your left? Or am I asking too difficult a question? I don't normally ask this, but since there's only 6 and you have a particular reason, would you put the quote, well, there's really only one person I see here that's conservative. Guy Gibson may have been conservative, but I don't know. Elon Musk is clearly the opposite of the Unabomber, from what I understand of his politics. And also probably Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I don't know what Hattie McDaniel's politics were. Dr. King, okay, to your left. So here you are facing in. Your left would be over here. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. Hey, Kesh. Keshiv's dinner party included, with the exception of Kesh, everyone was a serial killer from the United States. And I guess you would call the Unabomber a serial killer, since he killed more than one. Hattie next to Guy. Okay, I don't know where are they going to be in the thing. So we have two. So let's continue clockwise. Or you can go around, tell me who's going to be on your right. But I like this. I like putting people next to each other. And then remind me, Louise, to tell you about what Mrs. Churchill, Lady Churchill, did at her parties. And I think it's brilliant. So Hattie next to Guy. So Kesh, the people in her dinner party are interesting. You probably don't know one of these people. You probably don't know. I don't know whether you know Hattie McDaniel or Guy Gibson and his dog. But you do know the Unabomber, Elon Musk, Dr. Martin Luther King. You may not know. Louise is pondering. But Hattie and Guy are going to be together. Hattie and Guy. Normally in a large dinner party, you also don't place two spouses next to each other. The idea is to mix it up. Then Ted. So Dr. King to your left. Is Hattie next to Dr. King, or I don't know who's Hattie next to Guy. So it goes Guy, Hattie, Elon, and Ted. So it goes Martin Luther King, Guy, Hattie, Elon, Ted. Is that right? So you're sitting next to Ted. On your right hand is Ted. Well, I'm kind of quiet. I'm just going to assume that that's right. So this is Guy, Hattie, Elon, and Ted, and you again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Guy Gibson, Kesh, was a pilot, and his dog, was a pilot in World War II. His squadron bombed the German dams in the Ruhr Valley, which compromised their industrial production for a while. Hattie McDaniel is a woman actress who won an Academy Award. She was in the movie, don't tell me, Gone with the Wind, which was about the Civil War, and she played a black she played a piece of property owned by white plantation owners. And her famous line was, "I don't know nothing about birthing babies," when she decided to not help out at a particular moment. I think she might have known about birthing babies, but she said she didn't. I saw the movie once, years and years and years ago, so I don't exactly remember. But she was given an award, an Academy Award for her performance, but she wasn't able to go to the performance to receive it because she was black. Guy and nigger on your right. Okay, so we have to change this. So it's on your left, there's Louise. Over here you have Martin Luther King. Then you have Guy on this side. Guy and dog. Guy and canine. So now yes, so Guy Gibson, the guy that led the raid on the Ruhr Valley with the bouncing dam buster bombs, which, I mean, that story is fascinating. If you don't know it, I'll try to tell you right now how they worked. Here's a side view of a dam. There's the water behind the dam. Here's the dam. And down below the dam are the factories. So you can't bomb the dam from this side. The bombs will bounce off, or they'll make a little tiny hole. There wasn't a way to do that. You can't drop a bomb on the top because that won't work very well either. So what they did, they flew over the water at a particular height. They figured out how to do that by using searchlights. And when the beams of light met, they knew they were 30 feet or 150 feet or whatever the height needed to be, and they would drop their bomb. And their bomb was a circular bomb that was spinning counterclockwise. So it was spinning and it would bounce. It was a bouncing bomb, and it would bounce right to here and then sink and then blow up. So sometimes the bomber didn't measure correctly the distance. They also had to know the distance from here to here, which they figured out by using a bomb sight to measure the guard towers at each end of the thing. So if they were too close, the bomb would go like this and bounce over. And if they were too far and they dropped the bomb, it would go blow up here, which it wouldn't do any good. So it would have to blow up right here at the bottom where it was going to do the most damage and break the dam. So that's how that works. Anyway, the guy that led this squadron was named Guy Gibson, and he had a dog that was named Nigger. And nigger is a term that was used at one point to describe black people in the United States. And it may have been used in England as well, but it was not a polite term. It was an offensive term. So Louise has invited these people of two different races and a couple of different political points of view. And she's going to sit back and watch the fireworks. And yes, Wakar, we can. Oh, let me tell you before, though, about Mrs. Churchill. So here's Mrs. Churchill's dinner party. Here's her big long table. She's here. Someone else is there, the head of the household. She's the hostess. The host is here, the far end. They don't need to talk to each other because they do it every goddamn day. And you've got, Count this and Lord that and Duke this and Sir that and Madam this and all of these people around the table, and they're arranged boy, girl, boy, girl. So here you would have a guy, here you'd have a girl, here you'd have a guy and a girl. And you would never put spouses next to each other. So this person's spouse might be over here because you don't want them talking to each other either. You're trying to have conversation be new and exciting. So at one point between the main course was being removed by all of the footmen, and she told the major duomo or whatever his name would be to hold off for a moment because she was going to make an announcement. So she would take her little spoon, her little dessert spoon or fork, depending on what was for dessert, and she would do that, except it didn't sound like that. It sounded like beautiful china. And she would say, she told her throng, "I would like all the men to stand." So all of the men stood up, including her husband, I guess, over here, or the host. "I would like you to turn to your left." So they all turned toward their left. "And walk 3 empty chairs away from you." So this guy would walk past this empty chair, this empty chair, this empty chair, and sit down on the 4th empty chair. So he'd sit here. So now he has 2 completely different dames on either side of him to talk to during dessert and during port and during any sort of after dinner speech, if there was an after dinner speech. So it's a way where you, in a orderly fashion, mix up the guest to promote further conversations. So do that at your next party, Louise and Kesh. I tried to do this at one party, and the host tried to he tried to improve it and make it easier. So he said, "Everyone that's on this side of the table, stand up and go to the other side of the table," and vice versa. So it was just the same people sitting next to each other. That didn't work. So, but we weren't seated boy girl at that particular event. It was a random assortment. So I said, well, next time we do this next year, I will tap. I'll go around the room and I will tap people on the shoulder. It's time for you to stand up. And once half of them are stood up, then we'll do what Mrs. Churchill said. Okay. Waqar, it's your list. And I think you sent me your list, or you posted it on a thing, but we're going to redo it right now. And what is your first name again? Are you Jermaine? No, you're not. We did his already. Jermaine. So this is Waqar. Cross him out because he hasn't played yet. W-Q-A-R. W-Q-A-S. So here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what is your first name again? Waqar, is that your first name? Again, I can't remember. Oh, you had to step out? Oh, damn, you missed it. It's a thinker. So Juicy Louise, what Mrs. Churchill would do, she would have all the men stand up at the table between the main course and the dessert course. She had all the men stand up and she asked them to turn left and walk around the room and sit down at the 4th empty seat. So that essentially moved all of the men, rotated the men, and they sat down, and they had 2 new dames on either side of them and 2 new dames across from them to talk. So it was a good way to Okay, it's the founder of your nation. So Wakar's here, and then you want so I'm trying to Muhammad Al Jinnah, is that his name? Is that how you're makes it sound like Mode is your country's name, and Al Jinnah is the person you want. So I imagine it's Muhammad Al Jinnah. So I'm going to write that Muhammad Al Jinnah, and that's the founder of what? Founder of what country? I'm sorry that I don't know this. Pakistan. Oh, that's right. We had the Pakistani flag. Pakistan. Okay, good. Pakistan. Okay, so we've got that. Kesh, are you still here? Who's next? Are you inviting 6 or 8 people to your dinner? Wakar, are we still here? Is anyone still listening to me? Am I no longer broadcasting? Tina? Start with 6. Okay, well, we're on number 3. We have to. Who's Tina? Tina is my cat. And my cat requires an audience when my cat eats, which drives me crazy because I have things to do that don't involve watching her eat. Me and my cat. Okay, well, Pierre, thank you for inviting me. And Tina. Tina has very nice table manners. She doesn't, jump on the table and want to eat people food. She doesn't like people food. She doesn't like cat treats. She just wants her same dry kibble. So she's very easy to deal with, very easy to cook for. But I'm not going to let her have a chair all by herself because she wouldn't sit there. I've been invited to a few. Wendy invited me. Wendy, Pierre, Beethoven, Chopin, Harrison Ford, and Josh Gates, whoever Josh Gates is. Here's Hitler. He's invited to that one. Tolkien, Ramses II. Edgar Allan Poe. Here, I'm invited to this one that has Mark Twain, Susan Sontag, Sophia Loren, Richard Feynman, John Cleese. But that's a mixed bag. Saul Steinberg. Here's my Saul Steinberg, Noel Coward, Liberace, Hermann Goring, Max Raba, and Bennett Cerf. Okay. If I were to bring a +1, ask me when you get down to number 5. after number 5 is done. If I see someone that I think would be a nice mix, I can invite someone. But if it's someone like from my town here where I live, or a neighbor, or a boyfriend, if I had one, I would let you know. I don't have a boyfriend, but normally the +1 is supposed to be your present date. But I do Waqar, I design wedding invitations, and among the when you send an invitation, author unknown, when you do the most formal kind of wedding invitations, you have the outside envelope that has your name and your street address on it. Then you open it up and there's a clean, tidy envelope that has just the following: Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The outside says, their names and the address, but the inside one just says Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or it might say Mr. Smith and Miss Jones. Or if they're two guys and they're married and they have one last name, it's the Messrs. Smith. But that's all you have on the outside. But if you're allowing Mr. Smith, who's not coupled, to bring a guest, then you write Mr. Smith and guest. So I wrote this: Mr. Smith and guest, and put it in the envelope. I gave it to the bride for her wedding, and I emailed the bride, a month or so after the invitations went out, and I said, "Did your guests enjoy the calligraphy?" And she said, "Oh yes, Mr. Smith loved it. He loved the Mr. Smith and guest, and he put it in a frame, and he has it hanging above his bed." So that's pretty fun. Okay, so who else are you going to have? I'd like to have Pakistani actress Mariah Khan, M-A-H, Mahira Khan. Is Keshav still in the room? Keshav is kind of a neighbor of yours. He lives in India, and he might know this person. Maybe he has a crush on her as well. Should I see what she looks like? Where's my phone when I want it? Mahira Khan. Well, a number of people might say to me, you have no idea, because you're a homosexual man, what makes a girl pretty. But I can look at a dog or a cat and say they're beautiful. And, I don't need to be sexually attractive to appreciate beauty when I see it. Mahira Khan, H-N. She's a politician as well as an actress. So here's her picture for those people that may not know. She's got to be sitting next to you. Okay, well, we'll just do that. Oh, she does have a spouse already, though. Salam Karam. Oh, two spouses. Ali Askara. So how do you have two spouses? Was she married twice, or is she married twice now? She's 40 years old. Santa Monica College. Years active. Oh, here it says she only has one spouse. She's only been married once. Is she still married? Anyway. So, yes, she's pretty. You have good taste in dames. Okay, now we've got two more. I don't know why Keshev is not in the room anymore. Two more people. And only one more if you want me to bring a guest. So far, it's pretty stacked toward Pakistani people. If I'm there all by myself, if I'm the only non-Pakistani, I might want another non-Pakistani. In the group, but I'm not going to get in the way of your list. If you have two more Pakistanis that you would like to invite, I think that's fine. But I'm going to need to turn this video off in a minute. My stomach is growling and demanding me to shove some food in it. So, Makar, we got to hurry on this one. Well, you're thinking of number 5. Let me see if I can think of a number 6. So Jinnah with his teen wife. Oh, Jinnah, he has a teen wife. So this is we have to add the wife here of this guy. Is that, I'm trying to see. Where did you, I'm trying to remember how yeah, Jinnah, that's an H. It's supposed to be an H. So we're inviting his wife, Mrs. Jinnah, who's a teenager. And me with my +1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I get to invite someone. Okay, I'm gonna add another American, just because, or another non-Pakistani. I would invite Keshev from India, but I don't know whether the Pakistani and the Indians are on good terms with one another. That might cause friction. Hello? D'Angelo Demetrius Vickers. Well, I can believe it. There's something, when you get to be 42, you'll talk about how attractive 18-year-olds are. How about I'll invite D'Angelo. not Daedalus, Demetrius Vickers. We've just been invited to a party with a bunch of Pakistani people. You and I are the only non-Pakistanis there. So Vakar and D'Angelo, introduce yourself to each other right now for a brief moment. D'Angelo, if I can say this, is a Donald J. Trump admirer. Is that correct? I think that's what you mentioned. So, Vakar, do you like Donald J. Trump? Does your president and his teen wife like Donald J. Trump? I'll be right back. You can't have that guest. Oh dear. We're crossing you off, D'Angelo. 6. Okay, I will invite someone else then. One of my neighbors in my building, I refer to him as my 3/4 roommate. He uses my kitchen and my bathroom because the unit he lives in doesn't have one. And the perk of having him use my bathroom and my kitchen is he quite often makes me dinner. So good for that. So I'm going to invite him. His name is Matthew. Matthew F. I'll say. And what's nice about him, there's many things that are nice about him, but what's really, really nice about him is he asks questions really, really well. He doesn't talk about himself. I tend to talk about things I know, which art, some music, pens, drawing. Matt knows about art, and he loves certain kinds of music, loves reading books and stuff like that, but he is the person that you want at a dinner party because he asks you questions and is interested in your answers and interested in your culture. So he's great for that. So he's the guy. He's my +1. It's his dinner party, D'Angelo. He's giving the party. He doesn't have to invite people he doesn't want. Now, are you of the opinion that if you want something, if you want to be somewhere, you have the right to be there, even though it's a private dinner party? Is that how it works? I'm trying to find your D'Angelo your list. D'Angelo had interesting people. Here he is. Robert Oppenheimer, Albert Einstein, Adolf Hitler, Anne Frank. He's inviting his girlfriend, Angela, Elvis Presley, Larry David, and I forgot who Larry David was. Who's Larry David? You told me, but I don't remember. Oh, he's the comedian, right? Comedian. I mean, again, this is a very interesting mix of people. And, you know, when you have them at a table, this guy wants to kill this one, this one, this one, did kill that one. He probably would kill Larry David because they're all Jewish. Whether he'd kill Elvis Presley, I do not know. So that's an interesting group. Again, this is all, you know, part of the fun of this is to have people that normally wouldn't agree with one another, to hear what they have to say to one another. And here I was invited to this one. Scraff invited me. Gunther Wagner, he invited, who invented Pelican pens. Peer, I was invited to that one. Richard Wagner, the opera writer. Craig Schaefer, who owned the Schaefer Pen Company, and Tracy Leber, whoever that is. No, Franz Lehrer. So you have a musician, a musician, a pen person, and another pen person, and Scraff, the host. So again, it's a fun little assignment. And this was inspired by a TV show called Meeting of the Minds, I think. Let me just look that up. Meeting of the Minds, PBS. And what was his name? What's the name of the guy that ran it? Steve Allen. So Steve Allen would invite, you know, here's maybe Marie Antoinette, there's Steve Allen, the host. I don't know who this is. Karl Marx, maybe, looks like. So, and then some other person, maybe that's Machiavelli. So he'd have 4 people around a table, and they'd be discussing things as if they were real. So the script followed what Steve Allen imagined Marie Antoinette would say to Karl Marx. So I think that the idea is fun, you know, even though they would probably hate each other in real life. There's a way where you can get 2 people that hate each other, ideologically hate each other, and maybe they'll learn to like each other or respect each other's opinions by actually sitting down and breaking bread. So that's where this game comes from. Part of it comes from. The other part is just you want to be in a room full of people that you admire and wonder what they would say to each other if they had met. This is Kesh, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Arlene, Winmount, Gary Ridgway, Kesh, Ed Kemper, and Son of Sam. So these are all, with the exception of Kesh, the host, they're all mass murderers. So there you go. Goodbye, everyone. Anyone else have anything else to say to me? You have really made my list infamous. Well, you're the one that wrote it down. So Kesh, I was going to invite you to be my date going to this one dinner party that was just described, but you weren't in the room, and I'm not sure whether everyone other than me was Pakistani, and I wasn't sure whether you would feel comfortable. I don't know, what are the relationships between India and Pakistan now? I know that you personally may not have the opinions of the diplomatic corps of India. You may not share that, but you might share it. I don't know. I sometimes do a lot of posting where, D'Angelo, you might appreciate this or not. I don't know. I'll throw it out there. You can take it and run or not. There's a institution, we'll call it, called PragerU in the United States, and it pretends to be kind of like a college, and they're trying to teach Americans the evilness of liberalism. And of course, they love Trump. Absolutely love Trump. And they don't like homosexuals. The hosts of this thing don't come out and say homosexuals are evil, but their followers do. And I'm mentally ill. I'm the son of Satan. I'm a minion of Satan. I'm a socialist because I'm gay. They make all these assumptions based on the fact that when I say I'm gay, they come up with all this nonsense. And someone posted that there are a lot of people that work for this conservative think tank, we'll call it, that are gay. Well, why don't they come to my aid when someone calls me mentally ill because I'm gay? Maybe they enjoy self-loathing or something. I don't know. So, what's for breakfast? Prick, you're going to get sick, Friedrich? No, and what they do, they'll go on some college campus, usually you at UCLA, and they'll ask a question of some students. And this question might be what you and I would think would be very easy to answer, but they record the stupid people and their stupid answers, and then they make a blanket statement about all of education, saying this is what modern woke education is doing to people. No, it's not, dear. Instruct on, yeah. No, they love it. When I was young, Friedrich, when you were young, the United States, their big enemy was communism, was the Soviet Union. So we were brainwashed or told to despise them and their atheistic ways and stuff like that. And then when I was in college or grad school, it was gay people were causing all of the trouble. Well, no, we're not. How am I, a gay person, causing world hunger? I'm not producing a mouth to feed. So breakfast cereal, well, Pop-Tarts I don't think are that popular. I think more people just have toast and whatever kind of jam they want rather than this Pop-Tart thing. And I think, I don't know what more people eat, toast and eggs and bacon or cereal. I think probably cereal now more than anything because eggs are so expensive. Uh, God, I don't know. I mean that it's certainly discoverable on this app on this phone. I can type in what's the most. What if I were to make a guess? I don't even know what. There's so many. They're so similar and they're so different that some are popular with children, some are popular with old people. Um, there's also hot cereal, oatmeal, which is popular with many people as well. So I don't really know. $1 each. Pebbles. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had Pebbles in my life, so I don't know what they're like, but I suspect they're very similar to Cheerios. Some are sort of shaped blobs of dried stuff, and others are flakes that are crunchy. So it's. I have grape nuts. Grape nuts flakes, things like that. But anyway, I'm getting hungry, so I have to go. Friedrich, it was nice seeing you. I'm glad that you have a yellow cardinal pen. 2 of them. I think I have 2 as well. 2 yellow ones. Yep. So. Robert Kennedy. Yeah, we're just doomed. Thank God I'm old. It would surprise me. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. You don't have a lunatic running the country. Oh, good. Anyway, I need to go. See you all later. Bye bye.